Welcome back to Wine Bomb. Thanks for joining us today. We're going to be completing the tasting that we started earlier in the week between the Old World and the New World. We started off with the Sancerre from Jean-Jacques Alcher, and we're going to be completing it with the Kim Crawford Marlborough Sauvignon Blanc, which is what we have right here. I saved a little bit from our previous tasting, so we'd be able to enjoy that today. But, you know, we talked a little bit about what made Sancerre so special with the leaner styles, a little bit more mineral driven. Let's talk a little bit about what makes New Zealand special. For starters, it's the geographical location. From the southeasternmost point in Australia, Tasmania, across the Tasman Sea lies the country New Zealand. New Zealand is the southernmost growing region in the world, and between longer days and cool breezes from the ocean, the growing season can be very long, which is an especially good thing. This allows for bigger yields that can still produce very concentrated, ripe fruit that maintain acidity, which is a must when it comes to producing quality fruit for quality wines. New Zealand is separated between the northern and southern island, both of which are home to viticulture. The wines of Kim Crawford come from Marlborough, which is an area in the northeast of the southern island. This region is planted primarily to Sauvignon Blanc, which is of little surprise as it is widely considered New Zealand's flagship grape. Now, the interesting thing about this wine is that it's no longer representative of a person. It's not just Kim Crawford, the winemaker, it's now Kim Crawford, the brand. Originally, Kim and Erica Crawford started the winery as kind of a passion project, but the plan was always to turn it around and sell it once they had developed a following and a brand itself. They sold it back in 2003 to Vincor, which has since been purchased by Constellation, but in that acquisition from Vincor, they paid a substantial amount of money to pay for the name itself. So Kim Crawford, the winemaker, with his new project, cannot put his name on it whatsoever and cannot actually put the Crawford name on any future projects either. His family can't put their name on future projects as well, all because of that deal that they made back in 2003. But, I mean, they got a very large sum for that name, something in the ballpark of $60 million. But, I mean, all the same, when you see Kim Crawford on the label, you're not seeing a representation of the person who's making the wine. It is representative of the family that created the brand. Now, like I said, back in 2006, Constellation bought Kim Crawford from Vincor in an acquisition of the entire company of Vincor, and Constellation at that time was the largest wine distributor in the entire world. And if you remember from one of our conversations last week, Gallo has since in 2020 acquired a large portion of Constellation, which would now make Kim Crawford a Gallo brand. So now that we've effectively gone full circle, I'd like to go ahead and taste these wines. Like I said, I saved a little bit of the Sancerre from earlier in the week, and now we do have the Kim Crawford to go by as well. I wanted to save a little bit just so that I could do the compare and contrast side by side when the day came. I'll go ahead and start with the Sancerre just to get a quick refresher of what that was like. Subtle fruit, good acidity, good minerality, get that flintiness that I was getting from it before. Kind of jogs my memory. I like it. It's nice and zippy. But one thing that I didn't mention earlier was the nice thing about doing a side-by-side comparative tasting is it really gives you a chance to highlight one wine over the other. If you have trouble kind of gauging acidities or gauging bodies or alcohols or what have you, having two wines side by side really helps you pinpoint different aspects of the structure. So having gone through the Sancerre, or just taking a quick refresher on the Sancerre, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. You can even see it in the color. Look at that. This is the Sancerre. Nice and pale color there. Very blonde, almost straw-like. And this is almost gold in color. I mean, if you're looking for even one indication of a riper style, this is it. The color itself should tell you everything. The extraction, or so the riper that the grapes get, the more color they're going to get in the skins themselves. And so this is really just an indication of the extraction of that color. I mean, even on the nose, I get pear, I get this lychee characteristic, I get tropical fruits, a little bit of kiwi, some pineapple, I get nice ripe pear, like, you know, that sugary juiciness that you get in a pear. I get almost like limeade, you know, because it is a little bit sugary itself. I mean, I'm not expecting this wine to be sugary in any sense, but really just kind of paints this very fruity picture in my mind, which is exactly what I would expect from a New World wine, is to really highlight these fruit components. And I think this side by side really illustrates that beautifully, where you've got this subtle fruit characteristic in the Sancerre that's really highlighting all these mineral flinty characteristics, and then you jump into the New Zealand and it's almost like a fruit cocktail in the face. But I mean, it's very, very pleasant. It's very juicy. Like, I want to drink this just because of how full on the nose it's really leading me to believe this is going to be on the palate. I get a little bit of these like white and yellow flowers, like honeysuckle, a little bit of this like white lilac. So it not only has these fruity components, but it also has this really nice floral elegance to it. I have no indication of oak on this, but in New Zealand it's not unusual for them to be using stainless steel vessels to keep that fruit as pure as possible. Wow. So we were talking earlier in the week about the pungence of Sauvignon Blanc, or the pungence of Sancerre. And if you want pungent, this is it. You get that grapefruit, but it's like ruby red grapefruit, so it's almost a little bit on that sweeter side. The greenness is almost like celery, or even like this chili pepper, like bell pepper, or like that jalapeno greenness, where it kind of packs a little bit of a punch. So it's got that same greenness. I get on this, it's lime zest. I believe earlier in the week I was describing the Sancerre as having this pithy characteristic, where it's a little bit on the bitter side, but this is like lime zest, where it's nice and refreshing and really just vibrant. Ripe pear, ripe pineapple, ripe peaches, ripe nectarines, even like this like mandarin orange characteristic. A little bit of this, it's not unusual to, as a descriptor of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, as disgusting as it sounds, to be cat pee. And it has like this really kind of like, you know, I keep saying the word pungent, but it really kind of draws it home how pungent this is, to say something like cat pee and grapefruit and this really like pungent greenness like celery or jalapeno. Everything about this is very powerful. And if I go back into the Sancerre, I'm sure it's going to really start to pale a lot of these profiles out. Yeah. Going back to the Sancerre, because remember, when I was in the Sancerre earlier in the week, I was still talking a fair amount about some of the fruit. Having the fruit on this and then going back into the Sancerre pretty much just cuts the fruit out of the picture entirely, and you're left with a lot of this mineral-driven style. You still get a fair amount of that grassiness as well, but a lot of that flinty minerality is really at the forefront of this wine. And I hope that this really illustrates to you that these are not subtle differences between these wines. These are very stark, contrasted wines. in completely different styles. And between the New World and the Old World, you're really going to get that across the board. If you're drinking a Cab Dominant Bordeaux and you're drinking a Napa Cabernet Sauvignon, it's going to be night and day, the experience that you're going to have between those wines, because the Bordeaux should be presenting with a lot of these earthier profiles, whereas the Napa Cab, with its riper profile, is going to be much more fruit forward, and it's really going to lend a lot of that body and a lot of that alcohol and a lot of that fruit. And that's generally going to be your experience across the board between New World and Old World comparisons. I hope this helped illustrate to you the difference between these two styles, and if you would like me to elaborate any more on these, I'd be more than happy to do so. Just go ahead and shoot me an email or a comment in the comments section. Thank you very much for joining us today, and as usual, if you could share this on Facebook, subscribe on my YouTube channel, it really does help out a lot. In any case, I do appreciate you guys joining me today, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Cheers.